Brandon Aiyuk will be up for an extension. He could make a lot of money. It's looking like he could cash in $20 million a year, 4 years, $80 million, 5 years, $100 million. They've already given almost $24 million a year to Deebo Samuel. It's a lot of expensive players in this offense. Do you think the Niners will extend Brandon Aiyuk or trade him or let him just play out his contract?
Honestly, it's hard to tell you what I think they can do. What I know that they shouldn't do, what they really can't do, they can play one more year together, whether they do the extension and structure it to where it's, back heavy, or they do the franchise tag. They can do one more year with Brandon Aiyuk. Whether they do or not, I don't know. Maybe they get enough opportunity with draft capital willing and trade, and they trade him this offseason. But what they can't do, in my opinion, is go past next season, right? They can do this season, obviously. They can do next season by one of those options we talked about. But after next season, I believe Deebo Samuel is going to be getting like 28 million, close like that, something like that in 2025. You can't have BA making 20 plus million and Deebo making 28 million. So to me, it's either this season or next season, which will be the last time we see this duo on the same team together. Now, they could also re-sign BA, extend BA, and trade Deebo, which is another option that has to be considered. But the 49ers right now are 27th in passing attempts. How do you justify paying two wide receivers over $20 million a year when you're passing the ball 27th in the NFL? It makes no sense. So we're looking at the last year or two of those two together, in my opinion, one way or the other.
Yeah. And it's not like you can use Aiyuk as a part-time running back. He's a real wide receiver. And in that sense, he's not the greatest fit for this offense. To me, this kind of reminds me of what the Niners did with McGlinchey, although Aiyuk's a lot better than McGlinchey. But what they said is like, we'd like to keep McGlinchey, but we're not going to pay top dollar for a left tackle and top dollar for a right tackle. You can't do it. We can't have two expensive offensive tackles. A lot of teams do. The Niners decided they don't want that or they can't afford it. I think they're going to make the same decision at wide receiver. It'd be one thing if Brandon Aiyuk were a number one wide receiver, the kind of guy who is a perennial Pro Bowler, but he's not. And like you said, they don't pass enough to really fully take advantage of him. What they're going to have to pay him, they're probably better off trading him for a first-round pick and trying to replace him with someone on a rookie deal, which is doable. There are really good wide receivers that come out every year. And again, Aiyuk is not elite. He's very good. They should be able to replace him. I would trade him.
I think it's tough for Brandon Aiyuk. I don't know what limitations I want to put on Brandon Aiyuk on this team. And the reason why I say that again, 27th in passing attempts, he's not getting a ton of opportunity. It's a very small sample size every season for Brandon Aiyuk. And he's still trending to have his best season of the year. I think he's still trending 1,400 yards, which would be his best season. Brandon Aiyuk, to me, could be a number one wide receiver on a lot of teams. Maybe not top 15 teams in the NFL. But on some of these other teams, he could be a number one wide receiver. And I think it's in Brandon Aiyuk's best interest, if we're being real, to go to another team. If I'm Brandon Aiyuk, I want to go to another team as far as contract and so forth. And as far as just his career, his overall career, if your team's passing 27th in the NFL in passing attempts, you're not going to get a lot of opportunity to shine. If he's 1,400 yards on the 49ers, who are 27th in passing attempts, what would he be on one of these teams that are passing a lot more frequently than the 49ers?
He'd get more targets. He'd get more yards. He'd get more touchdowns. He'd get more opportunities. My thing with Aiyuk is like, he's an excellent route runner. He gets open as well as anyone in the league. But when he goes up against the best corners that he can't just turn around and make them look silly, when he really has a legit challenge, best against the best, and there's a guy right in his hip pocket when the ball's there, he has these really long arms, and people talk about him like, he's 6 feet tall, but he's like 6'5" with those arms. I've never really seen him make use of those arms in contested catch situations. It seems like when there's someone draped all over him, he often doesn't come down with the ball, and he almost plays smaller than he is. So he's a very good wide receiver in my eyes, but I don't think he makes those 50-50 plays that you would expect someone of his build and his pedigree to make. And once he does make those, I'll call him elite.
Yeah, I don't think he's elite or in the upper echelon. Like, he's not Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase type of wide receiver. Right, he's not one of those guys, but he is He's up there. Like you said, he's very good. He's very good.
He's
And
like
he
right
does
outside the top 10.
yeah, that sounds about fair. And he does everything you want from him from, in the offseason. He's a leader by example. He's such a good role model for these young receivers coming up, watching him, how hard he works on the offseason, training camp, practices. All that is fantastic about Brandon Aiyuk. And there's value in that as well.
Mhm. He's
Yeah.
consistent. He's durable. He's excellent.
Yeah.
He's also going to cost $20 million a year. You're spending $24 million on Debo. What?
Mm.
$16 million on Kittle.
Well,
How
here's
much
the
on
question.
McCaffrey?
Right.
How much on Trent?
Well, here's the question then, Grant. Debo or Brandon Aiyuk? If they have to come to that decision, like I said, they can play another year together next season. Mathematically, it makes sense. But with all the other contracts in place, it doesn't make sense to me beyond that. So when the 49ers have to ultimately decide, who do they choose and who would you choose?
Well, let me look at the contracts real quick. If the Niners were to trade Debo Samuel after this year, it would come with $35 million in dead
Boom.
money.
There
It's
you
like you
go.
can't.
You
If
can't
they
do it.
traded him next year, it would come with $26 million in dead money. You
Right.
can't. Like, they made their choice. They went with Debo. Maybe that wasn't the right call. He's older. He's not as durable. He takes over games in ways that Ayuk never has. And
Can
you
they
can do
restructure
more
that?
with him.
Can they trade and restructure, like create a deal? We're going to trade him to so and so. We're going to restructure his contract like this
I don't
to
know.
erase that dead
That's
money.
beyond my pay grade. I was an English
Mhm.
major in school. I read
Right.
poetry.
Yeah. Yeah. Got a great school though. UCLA Bruins. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a
Thanks.
good school. It's a good school, man. That's why you're good at what you do. That and your dad. Your dad has taught you a lot, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. He's
Best
excellent.
guess. Well, thank you. I'll tell
Yes.
him you said that.
Yeah.
Best guess. You think Ayuk's on this team next year?
Yes. Next year.
I'm gonna say no.
Okay. See how
Best
it plays
guess.
out.
See
Book,
how it plays
book,
out.
bookmark this. Got to come back to it.
Ivan says, Grant, we should do like the Raiders, clean house and sit the quarterback and see what wonders it would do. Let's
We're
clean
not there
house
yet.
entirely.
We're five. They're
I don't know.
5-3, man.
5-3.
Yeah.
Chris Tallarico says BA was never going to stay here. He was always going to test free agency. He doesn't fit Kyle's scheme. He doesn't seem to want to be here either. Debo has less trade value. They should trade BA. I think you get a first round pick for BA. And I feel like it's kind of like when the Vikings traded Stephon Diggs for a first round pick and drafted Justin Jefferson. That was a good move.
The thing about BA, man, he's so good. But again, if you're going to run this offense, we're only passing 26th, 7th in the NFL. You don't really need BA. Like, I personally think BA is the most irreplaceable player on the 49ers offense right now. I think Debo is his value is a lot lower with CMC on the team. CMC can do most of the things that Debo can do. There's no one else on this team that can do what Brandon Aiyuk does. The problem is the 49ers don't use the things that Brandon Aiyuk does well often enough to justify it.
Yeah. Jewish guy says, Grant, you mentioned not wanting to press Kyle too hard about Brock Purdy benching. What goes into that? You don't want him to storm off, just a pro understanding. I mean, the way I think about it is like in those press conferences, sometimes you can have back and forth, but like you really don't want to get in an argument with the guy. If you disagree with Kyle Shanahan's answer, he gave you an answer and you have the forum. I have the forum to go write an article and give my opinion. But when I said, are you going to bench the quarterback? And he said, no. And I said, why? And he said, because you don't just bench a quarterback for no reason. It's not, I don't think it's necessarily my professional spot to be like, well, I can give you a reason. Like he could be like, Grant, I don't care what you think. Write your article and let other people read it, or not, which is totally fair. It's not my place to all of a sudden disagree with Kyle to his face. I could do that in my article. I just feel like I was there to get the answer. He didn't say why. I followed up and said, say why. He did. And I was like, all right, that's your answer.
I thought it was a great question, man. You're a journalist, and we need more people just asking questions like that. Now you got him on record of how he feels about the situation, and perfect. Now we know, and it's great. It was a great question.
That's all it is. Funny Box 5544 says, do you think D'Amico Ryans would have liked Trey Lance on his team? I personally think CJ is kind of similar to Lance with more experience. Man, I don't know.
I've been pushing back on this one a lot. Like everyone knows, I believed in Trey Lance's potential as a quarterback had he been given the opportunity and time. The key word is time.
Right.
CJ Stroud does not need the time that Trey Lance. He's a much more polished passer. People comparing Trey Lance to CJ, I don't get it. And to be honest, if D'Amico wanted Trey Lance, he could have got him.
True.
Yeah.
James Wells says, I really don't care what they do as long as they stop pretending they can win a Super Bowl without an real elite quarterback. Check the other contenders. Well, we'll see what
Correct.
Brock Purdy's all about this week against Jacksonville.